This story is like really gay. So, if that kind of thing makes you uncomfortable, this is your chance now to start to get over it, okay? So, because this is like my, sort of my coming of age, coming out first real relationship story. So let's go back in time. I'm going to take you back in time to the early, mid-'90s in Seattle, the roaring 90s in Seattle. And I had just moved there from Kansas. I had escaped from Kansas. And of course, I was completely heterosexual, of course, because they do not allow that in Kansas, especially back in the 80s. Just no. So I had been in Seattle, going to art school as a young ingenue. I'm about 22. And, after being in Seattle for a few years, that place is pretty gay. It's got like a gay community, and they would have like this. When I found out that they had like a parade for gay people. It's like, what? Really? Oh. And then so being there after a while, I started to kind of feel comfortable about. Well, actually, I was starting to feel more embarrassed about being in the closet than actually like having to come out of it, right? So after a few years, I was primed and ready to let go of this heterosexual farce, right? Because, I had managed to lose my traditional virginity. I got rid of that damn thing. But I was kind of starting to feel just kind of like, like a kid in a candy store, but it's like, no, I can't have candy, no candy. I don't eat candy, okay, oh my God, what are you talking about? So, my roommates knew. Oh my God, well, everybody knew. Everybody knew. So, my roommate, who was like a really good friend of mine, of course, and she worked at this coffee shop because it's Seattle. And she had a friend of hers that she worked with there, who we would get weed from her. And because this was back, once upon a time, weed was not legal, and you couldn't just go to a little store to get it. You actually had to procure it. So, and oh my God, and then there was there was phone code, because of course, the FBI and, because the X-Files, they're tapping your phone lines and they're listening in. So when you're going to get weed, you have to come up with this hey, so do you have any movies? Oh yeah, I got some really good movies, and they've got some really good special effects if you want to come by and pick up some movies instead of going to the video store. Oh yeah, and it's going to be like $40 for an eighth of movies. So we were at my friend's warehouse picking up some movies, and another one of her friends was there. This gentleman, who was quite a bit older than me. He was almost 30, super old. Because I was just an ingenue of 22, right? Oh my God, and he was very attractive, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? And so this I'm gonna change names because this shit's going out on the podcast. So we're just gonna call him Joe. Joe, he was a little bit taller than me, so he was tall, and he was ruggedly handsome. Oh my God, he was so adorable, and he had dark, wayward hair and piercing blue eyes. Oh, and he was really hot. And I felt this really strange, this odd, tingly connection with this man who was also buying some movies. So my roommate and I got our movies, and then a few days later, we're driving around, And then she says, oh, guess what? Guess who thinks you're kind of cute? And I'm like, and immediately I knew. But I was like, no. And it was that guy. It was Joe. And I'm like, oh. Inside I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that was kind of cool. That's not weird or anything. So somehow I managed to get his phone number. I don't remember exactly how. Probably just like more movies were purchased, and he was there, and I got up the gumption to we got numbers exchanged. Just, because I'm straight, of course. I'm so straight, as you can tell. So I actually got up the nerve to call him, and it's like, hey. So, maybe we could get together and hang out sometime. And this was before Netflix and chill. You had to actually I don't know, come up with an excuse. What did we watch movies, listen to CDs. So he invites me over to his house, and I go, and we're hanging out in his bedroom, and I'm regaling him with stupid 22-year-old bullshit, and then he's regaling me with really mature, almost 30-year-old bullshit, and I was really into it, and then and I burst right out of the goddamn closet, and I made a move. And then that was the night I lost my boyginity. My first time. Oh, my God. And I was dickmatized. I was immediately dickmatized. I flew out of the closet, hit the ground, and ran. None of that bisexual phase. That was maybe I was bisexual for 30 seconds. So after this evening, I, of course, followed him around like a puppy because I was dickmatized. And, and then we were all friends. We'd be going out to brunch. And he was so dreamy, oh my God, because he was so tall and he had muscles. And he could lift me up. Yeah, I was really into it. And then he was a video editor, so I would sit in the little editing suite and just watch him edit video like an idiot for hours. Oh my God. So he was my dreamboat, and I thought we were going to be together forever, or at least a year, right? So, this dream time went on, and then things started to get a little distant, and also I could just even as a little naive, wide-eyed 22-year-old, I knew that he was cheating on me. I just knew it. And then hanging out with our mutual friends, and they would be like, sometimes it's hard to be a friend of both of you. Obviously she knew that something was going on and she couldn't tell me. And then one of the big kickers is that, I was over his house one time and I looked down at the floor and saw this kind of telltale little corner of a condom wrapper. And it's and we hadn't really been doing anything. It had been a while since we done anything, so it couldn't have been. And I knew and pretended I didn't see it, of course, because I was dickmatized. But after a while, it was pretty. And he wasn't calling, and he was avoiding me. And I knew that something was going on. I was being cheated on, and my little heart was breaking. But it was no, I'm going to do something about this. Plus, I was really horny. So two of us can play this game, mister. And so I got myself one of those little pamphlets, because this was back before the internet. All this stuff is on the internet now, but back then you had to get one of those little gay glossy pamphlets, and it would be like at a coffee shop or a bar or whatever, and then flip through, and it would tell you where all the little places to go for various little gay things, like, all that stuff. And one of the pages towards the back is where all the sex clubs were. Sex clubs. And I was curious about these sex clubs and a little nervous. But now I was going to go to one. I had got up the gumption. So there was this one. It was called Basic Plumbing. And it was in a sort of rough and tumble neighborhood. And it was this like nondescript door. And it just had BP. And like one of those wooden letters that you can get at a hardware store, really, really nondescript door, BP. But I knew where it was, and so I got up the nerve to get in because, of course, everyone was watching. The FBI is watching you. And so you'd kind of like walk down this dark alley, and then you'd slow down as you get to the door, and then suddenly duck in, right? So that no one would see you. And you go into like this little, you're like in an alcove chamber, because they got to check you in. I don't know if any of you have been to any of these gay club things. And this was like not the kind where you have to like take off your clothes and walk around in a towel. This is more of like an easier thing where it's, you just wander around in jeans in this. Well, we'll get there. We haven't gotten inside yet. So I'm like in the antechamber where there's like this glass wall booth, like a bank teller booth, and it's like really dark, and there's like an overhead light, and you're being interrogated, and you have to like get a membership thing, but it was always cheap. It's like $10, even in like 1990s dollars. That was still pretty affordable. And you go in, and they'd have to see your ID, and then you'd have to sign some little contract that you don't read. And of course, I'd sign it with my fakest signature that is not my signature. And then you get like a little membership card, and with like a little like a punch thing. So like after 10, you get the 11th free or whatever the hell, And then I'm buzzed through, and I can go into the BP. So, and to give you an idea of this place is like, it's kind of like a maze of like black painted plywood, and it's kind of those haunted houses. It's sort of like those haunted houses that you'd be wandering around in, but instead of like a guy in a werewolf mask jumping out of you, it's a dick, right? So, and this was my first time. I was like Alice in a wonderful place, wonder maze, and it was everything's painted black, and there's that typical gay pew 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 music kind of going on in the background, and it's dim and dingy, and lots of paper towels everywhere. And and like there was like, and there's all sorts of various little hooking up activities. There's like the mazes, and then the walls with the conveniently dremeled holes. But they're dremeled. They're not just hacked out. It's like they know what they're doing, because you don't want to get splinters, and you don't want to get splinters. And then there's like these little cubby booths, where you can find the man of your dreams, or some guy who looks like Santa Claus. And you can go into these little cubbies either together or into the next one, and there's like a conveniently dremeled hole in between to allow the congress to occur. So I'm like walking around this thing kind of nervous and a little intimidated by like the werewolf dicks and the Santa Clauses. But there were some like attractive, shadowy figures there. And then I had noticed one attractive shadowy figure And I noticed him kind of. Our eyes didn't meet because you couldn't see anything, but there was sort of like this recognition. And then he popped into a little room, and I was like, oh shit, well, I'm gonna pop into the one right next to that one. And conveniently dremelled hole, and an event occurred. Yeah, it was great. It was really great, yeah. And that was the first time, let me tell you. And I was also still an amateur, so I didn't know that it's usually the proper form to, once you've completed the act, to kind of like wait and let them get out and get away a little bit before you get out. Just like this whole discretion thing. But no, I bounded out like a gazelle immediately as he was coming out. And guess who? Oh yeah. So I had just discovered that I had managed to not cheat on my little boyfriend. My man friend, both of us. And a couple of cats were out of the bag. It was really super awkward. Super awkward. So we got out of there and went our separate ways. And then later we had, it instigated the inevitable breakup with the man of my dream for a while, and which we just did over the phone because it was before, you couldn't text this shit. You couldn't just leave them a Facebook post, and ghosting. We just knew too many people to do the ghosty thing. So yeah, that was that story. Thank you. I don't think I should go on.
Nathan Tucker, ladies and gentlemen.